Hello and good evening. I'm Melissa Idris.
And I'm Sharad Kutan.
Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. The dates for the long-awaited Sarawak state elections have finally been announced. The Election Commission has set the 18th of December as polling day, with a 12-day campaign period that will kick off following nomination day on the 6th. Now, is there much enthusiasm for yet another pandemic poll? And how are the political stakeholders in Sarawak preparing for it? Our first guest tonight is Vun Lishan, President of Parti Bumi Kenyalang. Lishan, do you agree with the timing of the state elections that it should be held now? Because exactly 2 weeks from polling day, Undi 18 will kick in, which will allow some 135,000 young Sarawakians the right to vote in the elections. And not to mention, delaying it will allow more time for the booster vaccine rollout. Is December 18th the right time for polls, in your opinion?
The pandemic here is the COVID-19 is still very serious. Okay, we don't agree that the elections be held in a rush in this way, because life of the people are more important than win elections, more important to grab power. Okay? What I saw that the government or the regime wanted to rush this election. They just seems wanted to avoid for the young people to go for the poll to test this government. But I can say that the fear is quite what I call failed by the Sarawak government, GPS government, because the young people, they are very good in the internet. They know the knowledge. They know what is going on in the state at the moment. So with that, there's a fear. But of course, we in the opposition, especially Parti Bumi Kenyalang, okay, we are more concerned with the life of the people, not about the power. Okay? So I think...
Lishan, could you help us understand that, okay, if this is given now, we have those dates, the political parties can either choose to participate or not participate. But what about voters? Because if we're looking at the Malacca state election, we saw a very low voter turnout, much lower than what happened in 2018. Do you expect you'll have that same scenario playing out in Sarawak, low voter turnout?
Yes, I think there'll be a very low voters coming out to voting this time. Because one thing is the communication is difficult. Number two, the fear of COVID-19. And then facing a lot of problems of communications. Okay, yeah.
Right. Can I ask you to explain to those who may not be familiar with your party, with Parti Bumi Kenyalang, where the party sits in terms of the political landscape in Sarawak? I mean, particularly in terms of policy and ideology.
We are fighting. We are a party that's fighting for Sarawak independence, for freedom of Sarawak, and for independence of Sarawak. We feel that the union in Malaysia, Sarawak has in Malaysia, is no more workable. Firstly, is that we see that Parliament is controlled by those in the Federation of Malaya, okay? And then we are only given 31 seats. So whatever policy the federal government want to pass, or whatever bill to become law, the federal government want to pass, we just could not have any voice to oppose it. Okay? What opposition we have to any bill or policy will not be heard by the federal government. So I think that
Lishan, I understand your position, but having said that, hasn't the current Sarawak government been able to negotiate a better deal? Has there been a recognition for the need for greater autonomy for Sarawak? Isn't that enough?
I don't think the state government is able to negotiate anything with the federal government because they lack the numbers, you see. So they try to negotiate, and then I don't think the federal will always give in. You see our disadvantage like that. The finance minister is also all controlled by West Malaysia, the cabinet mostly. So we contribute a lot to the national coffers, but in return, we only get less than 5 billion per year in development fund. The fact we contribute more than 100 billion, if I'm not mistaken, per year. No? So we're taking but less than 5% in fact. So that's not very fair. So this has been going on over the last 58 decades. 58 years, sorry. Yeah.
Right. Can I ask about some of the headlines that I'm seeing about Parti Bumi Kenyalang? You're apparently fielding all women as candidates in the lineup for Sibu, and I'm just wondering, what's the thinking behind that? Is this about more female representation in politics?
You see, we try to to bring in equal gender into the party. We don't want the party to be dominated by men alone, because a woman should have a voice. Women should be represented. So we are putting in the central region women, so that the women presence in politics will be felt in the north, in the central, and also in the southern region. So we start with the central region. So I hope this will be a very healthy trend for Sarawak politics here. I think it's the only party now, over the decades, is the only party able to field a lot of women candidates in any election, in Sarawak election. Thank you. Yeah. Yes.
All right. Okay, thank you so much. That was Vun Lishan of Parti Bumi Kenyalang. We're going to take a quick break here and consider this, but we'll be right back with more on the Sarawak elections. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
To run a growing business is to be on a journey. And along the ride, you'll have many questions, challenges, and a few surprises. But wherever you are on your journey, your Dell Technologies advisor is here for you with the right tech solutions, so you can stop at nothing for your customers.
Take 5 ke arah kesejahteraan mental dan fizikal. Kekal berhubung, eratkan rangkaian sosial yang sihat. Aktifkan diri, tingkatkan kecergasan diri. Syukur, hargai nikmat kehidupan. Teroka minat, tonjolkan bakat. Beri, kebahagiaan dikongsi bersama. Amalkan Take 5, Agenda Nasional Malaysia Sihat, sihat sepanjang hayat.
When the world was changing for photographic film, we helped change the world as a pioneer of the digital age. In healthcare, we're expanding what's possible with advanced technology. But why stop there when we can focus our AI and IoT expertise on business innovation, helping tackle some of the toughest challenges in the workplace? When it comes to innovating for a healthier world and a more sustainable society, we'll never stop. Fujifilm, value from innovation.
Internet yang perlahan dan tidak stabil mengganggu operasi perniagaan? Biar kami bantu dengan fiber perniagaan Maxis. Internet pantas dan stabil dengan sandaran 4G tanpa wayar. Pastikan perniagaan anda terus maju dengan rangkaian teras MEF 3.0 yang diperakui dan bantuan pakar. Tukar ke fiber perniagaan Maxis hari ini.
Hi, you're watching Consider This. I'm Melissa Idris, with me, Sharad Kuttan. Let's continue our look at what to expect in the lead up to the Sarawak state elections, which has finally been set for December 18th. Now, joining us now, we have Datuk Jarrell Rentap Jabu. He's the Youth Chief for Parti Pesaka Bumiputra Bersatu, or PBB, which is the cornerstone party for Sarawak's ruling coalition, Gabungan Parti Sarawak. Gerald, Undi 18 is only set to come into force on the 1st of January. That's exactly 2 weeks after polling day. Do you agree by having the elections now in December 18th, denying 135,000 young Sarawakians the right to vote?
Thank you, Melissa and Sharat and Astro AWANI for giving the opportunity to be with you guys. Number one, Undi 18 is only can be allowed upon this Parliament's approval. There's some of the issues with them, but mind you, we in the last our assembly, we approve that 18 years old can be a candidate in Sarawak. To be candidate, I think we are one of the first states that allow that 18-year-old can be candidates. So I think that we are already progressing into that phase, and in that step that only 18 we have to come about, because there's so many administrative procedures to be done, and make sure that SPR.
Yeah, but Gerald, as I understand it, Sarawak is not the only state that has approved, candidates for 18-year-olds can stand as candidates. The issue really is, and as the Sarawak Muda Executive Committee chief did in fact write to the Elections Commission saying, have the election on the 2nd of January when Undi 18 is implemented. Was the timing of the election designed, in fact, to deny these young voters their right to vote? I mean, was it a strategic move on the part of the government?
I beg to differ. I think this part, Sharat, I think that's a very good question. But the deadline was to be 31st of December this year. And then those people that need to go and process this, the JPN and SPR, they need to go and approve all the procedure, because more important that everybody is looking at us like an eagle eye, per se, or whatever it is, that we have to be in proper procedure, that all the process has to be done duly. So I think it's not fair to go and say that we are the one to be denying the process that only 18 to come in. I think you have to go and ask SPR whether they're ready, or JPN will be ready to go on that. Mind you, my son is 20 years old. He's been waiting to go and vote for me. So what is the issue? Thank you.
You will have to wait till the next elections to be able to vote. Can I ask Gerald, as youth chief of PBB, what feedback are you getting from young people when you speak to them? What are their concerns? And when it comes to these elections, they may not be able to vote, but what are the issues that are central to the young generations of Sarawak?
Thank you, Melissa. I think the best thing, if you look into that, everybody is struggling with the economy process, and it is a really big challenge. But I'm grateful the opportunity for them to be like e-hailing people, Grab drivers, and Food Panda thing, and it come about, especially with the urban areas. This is something they can go and do. For the rural ones, rural people, rural youth, we are trying to go emphasize into looking into agriculture as part of the income earner for them. So it will be fertigation, modern farming, and so on and so forth. But I'm very proud of our people in the youth, in the rural areas. The youth has been struggling with this, and they have making inbounds, making money from doing fertigation and hydroponics to go and sell to the market. Sarawak is, although a small market, but I think it is good enough for them to be able to go and do this. I think opportunity is abound, and the state government is giving a lot of opportunities for us. And I'm grateful we have so many people like Tegas, Tabung Gagasan Bumi Putra, Anak Sarawak to go and do all these things. We have Centex to go and teach them how to go and do, to learn these new techniques and so on and so forth, And
Right.
In Sarawak,
sorry, Gerald, sorry to cut you there, but very quickly, because we're running out of time, to address the question of voter turnout, they're expecting low voter turnout, but there's a long-standing problem for Sarawakians working outside of Sarawak. There are many of them, and when we look at recent prices for air flights back to Sarawak, they're onerous. I mean, they're very high. So what is it that GPS wants from SPR to enable a much more inclusive process that will help these individuals to participate in the elections?
Okay, Shara, I think that's a very good question because I face the same problem. My sister is overseas and all that, but SPR has done until 24th of November, if I'm not wrong, today, you can go and ask for postal voting. But the rest of it, those on any other Sarawakian that want to go and vote, I cannot go and say much because I think this is a commercial decision. It's all up to the airlines to go and give us a better rate to come in. As of today, my sister wants to come back to Sarawak. One-way ticket is already 1,000 plus. So it's you imagine how much people want to go and exercise their fundamental right to come and vote. It is a big burden. So please consider. I request that the government consider all this, and the airlines also consider that these people are fundamental people that were for economic stability and to go and ensure that they have the free will to go and vote. I think this is all that we need to go and do to ensure that they can come back to exercise the fundamental right, the constitutional right.
Thank you so much, Datuk Jarrell Rentap Jabu from Parti Persaka Bumi Putra Bersatu, their PBB. We're going to take another quick break here and consider this. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned.
Anda dah bosan duduk di rumah? Jom serta
amanah di tangan kita. Adat, budaya dan semangat menjadi kesinambungan perpaduan tanah air yang tercinta. Berteraskan adab yang terpahat di jiwa dan raga. Marilah bersama kita membina negara Malaysia.
Untuk memastikan Malaysia ada ke depan dan maju. Induknya adalah Melayu.
Balik kepada Islam. Orang yang membuat polisi.
Kalau itu yang dikehendaki, fine. Mungkin kita berbeza pandangan.
Tapi kita mempunyai kuasa yang boleh menentukan budaya di masa hadapan.
Polisi yang mesra wanita sudah tentu dia akan datang daripada pemimpin wanita.
Asrama Mahat Tahfiz Jawaban.
Bila sentuh soal berita, tiada masa untuk tunggu. Kepada anda kami bawakan fakta, susulan dan kupasan yang terkini. Tiada drama dan tiada pengulangan. Usah tunggu lama-lama. AWANI 745 lebih awal dari biasa.
Hi, thank you so much for staying with Shrad and I on Consider This. Joining us now, we have Professor Datuk Dr. Jayum Jawan, political scientist at University Putra Malaysia. Professor Jayum, the elections in Sarawak have been announced 18th December. Who would benefit most by having the elections now? And by which I mean by not allowing 135,000 new young voters the opportunity to vote in the state elections because it's 2 weeks too early for Undi 18 to kick in?
Thank you very much. A very good evening. I think the issue of the young voter does not arise. The election should have been conducted several months ago when the state assembly expired. So the issue of now or even after February when supposedly the emergency was lifted then. So I don't see that has been a very big issue. But naturally, in any election, incumbent ruling party is always at the advantage in Malaysia and elsewhere also, because they are better organized, they have better resources, they have the benefit of the office to back them up, which are not available to their opponents. So this is a natural advantage to the ruling party, to Barisan before, to now to GPS and any other government before them. So that's a natural advantage.
Jayum, isn't it true that the GPS government sought to have the elections earlier than they could that it could have been? In fact, they could have waited out the emergency period, and that would have allowed for not just the youth vote, but also perhaps better preparation in terms of the rollout of booster shots. And especially as elections do bring a lot of people into contact with each other. What do you think was the reasoning for the GPS government to push this election at this point in time?
Well, the GPS government has been running the state without a legitimate support of the people. So I think the legitimacy of the ruling party has been questioned for the last 6-7 months of when the state assembly expired sometime in April, if I remember correctly. So yes,
but did the opposition?
But people don't question. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But
okay.
Wasn't the political opposition in Sarawak also willing to allow the GPS government to continue? They were not particularly enthusiastic about an early election.
Well. The opposition, the opponent of JPS, whether it's held 4 months ago, whether it's held now or in February, they have very slight chance of of winning anyway. At most, they can only dent the support that the GPS ruling party is going to gain during election, whether conducted now or even conducted in February. But like you said, I would have expected that they will let it run out so that the people are better protected in terms of this pandemic. So, I mean, if it is in February, perhaps it would have been better. But then again, we don't know whether February we will have a low rate or high rates of infections and hospitalization. So this is something that is not predictable for the moment.
Right.
What
issues do you think will be central to voters? I'm just wondering, I mean, would it be more issues about MA63? Would that be something that voters will be, that campaigning might be focused on, that voters might be focused on, or other issues on your radar?
Well, the people want stability. The people want promise that are practical. Not promise that are based on popular appeal. MA63, NCR, land issue, these are all popular appeal, but it has for the last 50 years got nobody anyway. So yes, they will use that again, but I don't think it has any much currency to the political party that is trying to promote itself as champion of MA63. It is not about you are not happy, therefore you want independent. No, you are not happy in Malaysia. We'll sit down, talk about it, and what can be done to improve Sabah Sarawak position within Malaysia. It is not about leaving Malaysia. Leaving Malaysia is not an option. And I think when you campaign, when political parties use MA63 and threaten to leave Malaysia, when you get the support, I think that is just a populist appeal to the electorate. And I don't think electorate will buy that, because whether Malaysia is good or not good, we have to sit down. This is our country. We have to sit down. We have to think together. We have to work together to improve it. How can we improve it? If it's autonomy, then it is autonomy. Right. But it has to be based on consultation, not on populist move like some political party are trying to project that they are the champion, but they only emerged yesterday. Where were they 50 years ago?
So can I ask you about whether GPS will promote their negotiations with the federal government for a better deal? Will that become part of the political discourse, whether it's got to do with revenues or policy autonomy or questions of language? What do you think GPS will campaign on?
It will be a mix of many things. It is not about leaving Malaysia, that's for sure. It is about getting more money for development, because Sarawak is equal to the size of the peninsula. Yes, it is about that. It is about more autonomy on policy making, on governance of the state. Yes, I believe that to be so. But it is not about threatening federal leaders that you want to leave because you don't get what you want. I think that's very childish. What Sabah and Sarawak should get, it is already written in the Malaysian agreement. So it falls upon leaders, Sabah, Sarawak, and Malayan leaders to sit down, review it, go over what needs to be improved, you improve upon it, so that it is good for Sabah, Sarawak, and also Malaya. Going out of Malaysia is not good for anybody.
Thank you so much, Professor Jayum Jawan from UPM there, wrapping up this episode of Consider This.
Thank you. Good evening.
I'm Melissa Idris.
And I'm Sharad Kuttan, signing off for the evening.
Thank you so much for watching. Good night.